and I reached the airport with my luggage already checked and ready to go. In the middle of the crowd, my son-in-law suddenly grabbed my passport from my hand. "Stay home and take care of the dogs, old man," he said. Then he ripped my boarding pass in half. I stayed calm. I didn't argue. I simply walked to the service desk and canceled the entire trip that I had paid for. He believed that was my biggest mistake. But 2 days later, sitting inside a lawyer's office and opening a manila folder, I realized the real mistake had been his. Before we continue, like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Quick disclaimer. This story includes fictional elements for education and entertainment. Any similarity to real people or locations is coincidental, but the message itself is real. The sound of paper tearing sliced through gate C9 like a knife. My boarding pass, the one tied to nearly $10,000 on my credit card, was split clean in two inside my son-in-law's fist. "Change of plans, Pops," Jason Miller announced loudly, making sure nearby travelers could hear. "You're staying home. Someone's got to watch the dogs." People stared. A woman nearby looked at me with sympathy. Behind Jason, my daughter Emily kept her eyes on the floor. Ethan, 8 years old, stood frozen. Lily, only 5, clutched her stuffed toy and began to cry. "Why can't Pops come?" she asked. "Grown-up stuff, sweetheart," Jason replied without looking at her. He kept his smile aimed at me. "Your grandfather understands." At 65, I'd spent 4 decades in boardrooms. I'd negotiated with executives and hostile partners. I'd sat beside my wife through 5 years of cancer until I buried her. I knew a performance when I saw one. Jason Miller thought he was dealing with an aging man with money and no backbone. 6 months earlier, Emily had called me. "Dad, I know this is a lot to ask." It always was. But she was my only child, and I'd been alone in that Oak Park house for 5 years. When she promised a real family trip, Texas, theme parks, the Space Center in Houston, something special before Ethan started 3rd grade, I said yes. $10,000, 5 nights at the Gaylord Texan, the NASA tour Ethan had circled on every brochure, all charged to my card. Jason had promised to pay me back. He'd promised many things. $150,000. That's what I'd given them for the down payment on their Lincoln Park home. Jason called it a loan. The paperwork said otherwise. $65,000 more, charged to my secondary card for the luxury SUV in their driveway. Another $10,000 for the 2 Cane Corsos, Rex and Titan, dogs I bought as puppies because Jason wanted to project success. Now he was using them to humiliate me. "Sir," the gate agent said carefully, "we're boarding Zone 1. "He's not going," Jason cut in. "Family emergency." "We are," Ethan said, his voice cracking. Emily finally looked at me. "The dogs, Dad. We can't just leave them." Rex and Titan were already booked at a high-end boarding facility, prepaid, but Jason had never told her that. Something shifted inside me. Not anger, something colder. The same feeling you get in a boardroom when the discussion ends and execution begins. "You're right," I said quietly. "There is an emergency." Jason blinked. "What?" I turned to the agent. "I need customer service. I'm canceling all 5 reservations. Everything." "Dad," Emily started. "The flights, the hotel, the rental car, the tickets, all of it," I said. Jason's smile vanished. "You can't. I'm the card holder. My name, my card, my decision." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Power isn't volume. It's clarity. I looked at Jason Miller and watched the confidence drain from his face. For the first time in 5 years, I felt something familiar. Control. I didn't head for the exit. I walked toward customer service, past the coffee shop near baggage claim. Behind me, Jason's voice rose. "Dad, wait. Let's talk." I didn't turn around. The strongest negotiations happen when the other side realizes you're no longer negotiating. The agent at the counter looked up. "How can I help you, sir?" "I need to cancel reservations. All 5 passengers." She glanced at her screen, then at the clock. "Sir, boarding begins in 40 minutes. There will be significant fees." I slid my credit card across the counter. "Cancel everything." Her fingers hesitated. "Everything," I repeated. "The outbound and return flights. The Gaylord Texan, 5 nights. The rental car through Hertz. Every item under the confirmation number." I read it from my phone. She typed, clicked, paused. Her expression changed. Mr. Harris, this is a $10,000 package. Are you certain? Completely. Red warnings replaced green confirmations on her screen. I don't care about the fees. She nodded. One moment, please. I stepped aside and sat on a bench with a clear view of Gate C9. Jason was now arguing with the gate agent, Emily beside him, the kids trailing behind. Boarding passes were scanned, rescanned. The agent shook her head. Jason's face turned red. Mr. Harris, the customer service agent, called. It's done. All reservations are canceled. I'm emailing confirmation now. Thank you. One more thing, I said softly. There's a supplementary card on this account. The name is Jason Miller. Can you deactivate it? Her fingers moved quickly. Done. The card will be declined immediately. Perfect. I stood up just as Jason broke away from the check-in counter, scanning the terminal. Our eyes locked across 50 yards of polished floor. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he started toward me quickly. I turned and walked toward the exit. Dad, what the hell did you do? I pushed through the automatic doors into the humid Chicago morning. The taxi line stretched along the curb. I raised my hand, and a yellow cab rolled forward. Sir! Jason caught up just as I opened the door. You can't just leave. Those kids are crying because of you. I looked at him, really looked at him. 7 years of excuses, broken promises, and that practiced smile that had convinced my daughter he was more than a parasite in expensive shoes. No, I said quietly. They're crying because of you. I got into the taxi. Where to? The driver asked. The peninsula downtown. As we pulled away, I saw Jason standing on the sidewalk with his phone pressed to his ear. Lily was crying into Emily's shoulder. Ethan sat on his backpack, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed. Jason's number. Then again, and again. I turned the phone off. Let him wonder. Let him panic. Let him explain to my daughter why the trip he promised, the trip I paid for, had just vanished. The game had begun, and this time I was holding the cards. The Peninsula Chicago welcomed me with the kind of quiet luxury Jason only pretended to understand. Mr. Harris, welcome back, the desk clerk said with a smile. Your usual suite. Lakeview, please. 20 minutes later, I stood in a corner suite on the 19th floor, windows overlooking Lake Michigan. I ordered room service, ribeye, medium rare, coffee. Then sat at the mahogany desk and opened my leather notebook, the same one I'd used during corporate acquisitions. My wife had given it to me when I made partner. Her inscription still sat on the first page. For Michael, may you always remember what you're worth. I should have remembered that years ago. I drew a line down the middle of a fresh page. On the left, what they think they have. On the right, what I actually own. Lincoln Park House, my $150,000 down payment. Luxury SUV, title in my name. The dogs, registered to me. Utilities, my accounts. I picked up my phone. Chase Private Client Services. This is Michael Harris. I need you to freeze a supplementary card immediately. The name is Jason Miller. Security concern. Unauthorized use. Understood, Mr. Harris. The card is frozen. One more thing. He may try to impersonate me. Any changes require my physical presence. In-person verification only. Noted and restricted. Next, I called the internet provider and canceled service at the Lincoln Park address, effective immediately. The air conditioning ran on a separate meter I'd installed 3 years earlier. Jason had insisted climate control was essential for the dogs. I'd paid $12,000 for it. The bills came to me. Cancel that too. End of business today. It was June. Tomorrow's forecast was 92 degrees. Room service arrived. I ate slowly, reviewing my notes. The ribeye was perfect. I imagined Jason trying to explain why the card didn't work, why the Wi-Fi went dead, why the house felt like an oven. I thought about my wife, who died in that house 5 years earlier because I'd been too weak to say no when Emily begged us to move in just for a little while. I wouldn't make that mistake again. 2 more calls. Michael Harris, I need an hour tomorrow morning. 9 sharp. Estate planning and asset recovery. A pause, then a dry chuckle. I'll clear my calendar. Finally, I made the last call. 3 o'clock tomorrow. Bring your locksmith tools. We're recovering property. Whose property? Mine. A brief pause. Lincoln Park? That's right. I'll be there. I returned to my notebook. Day 1. Control established. Day 2. Recovery begins. Outside, the sun sank over the lake, turning the water gold. Traffic crawled below. Somewhere across the city, in a house heating up degree by degree, Jason Miller was learning that the comfortable life he'd been living had a name on the paperwork, and it wasn't his. The locksmith was already waiting when I arrived at the Lincoln Park house at 3. He stood beside his van, toolkit in hand, no questions asked. "Mr. Harris," he nodded. "Where do we start?" "The garage." The house was a narrow brick Victorian, worth close to $1 million now. I'd put down $150,000 so Emily and Jason could build equity. The garage sat in the back, accessible from the alley. The lock came open in under a minute. The door rolled up, revealing the midnight blue SUV, $65,000 of ego on wheels. I pulled the registration from my wallet. Owner, Michael Harris. "I'll drive it out," I told Mike. "Give me 10 minutes. Before that, I walked into the backyard. Rex and Titan were still in their kennel, a short run of chain link against the back fence. 2 massive cane corsos, over 100 pounds each, bred for protection and loyalty. I'd bought them as puppies 2 years earlier because Jason wanted serious dogs. Now they rushed the fence, tails wagging wildly. Their water bowls were green with algae. The food dish was empty except for dried residue and flies. Something cold settled in my chest. "Jesus," Mike said quietly behind me. "How long have they been like this?" "Since yesterday morning at least." I knelt and reached through the fence. Rex licked my hand desperately. He bought them to show off, never to care for them. I pulled out my phone and called the number I'd saved the night before. "K9 Haven, this is Jessica." "Jessica, this is Michael Harris. I called yesterday about emergency boarding for 2 cane corsos. Can you still pick them up this afternoon?" "Absolutely, Mr. Harris. We can have our transport van there within the hour." "Perfect. VIP accommodations." "And Jessica, these dogs haven't been properly cared for. They'll need assessment, grooming, and extra attention. We'll take excellent care of them." I hung up, opened the kennel gate, and both dogs nearly knocked me over. I grabbed the hose, filled their bowls with clean water, and watched them drink like they'd crossed a desert. "You're doing the right thing," Mike said softly. 40 minutes later, the K9 Haven van arrived. 2 handlers loaded Rex and Titan gently into climate-controlled crates. The dogs went willingly, tails wagging. They knew they were being rescued. I signed the paperwork and paid 1 month in advance. "If I don't contact you by then, extended another month." "Yes, sir." After they left, I climbed into the SUV. The interior still smelled like Jason's cologne, expensive and overpowering. I started the engine and backed out slowly. Mike stood in the driveway. "Want me to close the garage?" "No. Leave it open." "You sure?" "I want him to see it." I drove downtown and parked the vehicle in a long-term lot beneath the financial district. 30 days paid in cash. The attendant handed me the claim ticket. I folded it into my wallet beside my wife's photo. As I walked toward Michigan Avenue, I imagined Jason coming home that night. No internet, no air conditioning, no SUV in the garage, no dogs in the yard, just silence and the slow realization that the free ride was over. My phone lit up at 8. I let it ring 3 times before answering. "Control the tempo. The first rule of negotiation." "Yes." "Where the hell is my car?" Jason's voice was raw, furious. "And where are the dogs?" "Your car," I said evenly. "Check the registration. It's mine. Title's in my name. You can't just take—" "I can, and I did. The dogs are being properly cared for now. Unlike how you left them. You broke into my house, my lock, my property. I have keys to everything I own. You should have read the paperwork more carefully." His breathing changed, harder now. "The internet's down. The AC isn't working. I canceled them. My accounts, my payments. You can't do this. I'll call the cops. Please do." I poured myself 2 fingers of scotch, watching the amber catch the light. "I'll be happy to explain to Chicago PD how you charged $65,000 to my credit card and how you've been living in a house secured by my money while contributing nothing. They have a fraud division. Very thorough." Silence. Then, smaller now, calculating. "What do you want?" "Tomorrow morning, 9 sharp. Leonard Frost's office." "Who the hell is Leonard Frost?" "My attorney, estate planning and asset recovery. He has paperwork you'll want to see. I'm not signing anything. Then don't come. But if you're not there by 9, I'll consider it forfeiting any negotiation rights. The next call you get will be from Chase Fraud, Dad." Emily's voice now, distant and shaken. Dad, please. He had me on speaker. Emily, I love you. You know that. Then stop this. The kids are asking why Pops took their dogs, why the TV doesn't work. The dogs were neglected. Rex's water bowl had algae growing in it. Is that what you wanted for them? I didn't know. Jason said he was handling it. Jason says a lot of things. Tomorrow morning, 9. Leonard's office on Wacker, 40th floor. Both of you need to be there. And if we don't? Then I file a fraud report, petition the court for immediate possession of the Lincoln Park property, and hire a private investigator to review the last 7 years of your finances. I let it sit. Your choice, Jason. Show up and we talk. Or don't, and the lawyers take over. Either way, the free ride is over. You bastard. 9 o'clock. Don't be late. I ended the call and stood at the window, watching Chicago spread out below like a constellation of lights. Peaceful, beautiful. I thought of my wife, how she used to say I was too patient, too willing to keep the peace. You were right, I said quietly. I should have done this years ago. I finished my scotch. Tomorrow would be interesting. Leonard had the mortgage documents laid out, every page showing exactly who owned what and who owed whom. Jason thought he was coming in to negotiate. He had no idea he was walking into checkmate. They arrived at Leonard's office at 9:04. Jason was still wearing yesterday's wrinkled shirt, sweat stains visible. Emily's eyes were red and hollow. They looked exhausted, like people who hadn't slept. Leonard Frost's office sat on the 40th floor of Wacker Drive, windows overlooking Lake Michigan. A long mahogany table dominated the room. Leonard sat at the head, 70 years old and sharp as a scalpel. I sat across from him. 2 empty chairs waited. Jason walked in like he owned the place. All right, let's get this sorted out. Sit down, I said calmly. I don't think you understand the position you've put yourself in. Theft. Breaking and entering. Leonard's voice cut through the room. Mr. Miller, sit down or leave. We don't have time for theatrics. Jason glanced at Emily, who had already taken her seat, hands folded. He dropped into the chair beside her. Leonard slid a document across the table. Let's start with the property at North Lincoln Park West. Mr. Miller, do you believe you own that house? We own it, Emily and I. Wrong. Leonard tapped the paper. This is the deed. Emily Harris is the sole owner. Your name appears nowhere. Jason snatched the page. That's a mistake. You didn't buy anything, I said. I did. $150,000 for the down payment. $425,000 financed through a private loan from me to Emily. Leonard slid another document forward. The promissory note. The house is collateral. Total debt, $425,000. Emily went pale. Dad, I didn't know. The bank rejected your mortgage 3 times. Jason's credit. So I became the bank. Jason shot up. This is fraud. Sit down. Leonard didn't raise his voice. It's a standard secured loan, properly recorded. Want me to call Cook County? Jason sank back into the chair, hands shaking. There's more, Leonard continued. Yesterday you contacted Salvatore Giordano and offered the Lincoln Park property as collateral for $300,000. Jason's face drained of color. He called me first, I said, asking if I knew my son-in-law was mortgaging a house he doesn't own. I was just exploring options, Jason snapped. You were taking a loan against my collateral, I said. Emily would have been left with the debt. Emily made a small sound and grabbed the edge of the table. Jason reached for her wrist, pulling her up. We're leaving. You're hurting me, Emily said. He didn't let go. I'm your husband. Something in her voice stopped everyone. Let go of me. He released her. Red marks bloomed on her wrist. Emily sat back down. I want to hear the rest. You're siding with him? I'm siding with the truth. Jason stood there, looking from her to me. You're choosing him? I'm choosing reality. Jason turned and walked out, closing the door carefully, which somehow made it worse. The room felt lighter. Emily cried different tears now, relief, not despair. Leonard closed the file, then opened a drawer. Michael, there's one more thing. My chest tightened. He pulled out a thick manila folder but didn't open it yet. The background check came back. Your son-in-law's name isn't Jason Miller. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. His legal name is Bradley Thompson, Las Vegas. Arrested in 2017 for securities fraud. $2.3 million taken from elderly investors. Fake bond schemes. Changed his name legally in 2018 and moved to Chicago. There's an active federal warrant. I stared at the folder. You're certain? Fingerprints. Facial recognition. It's him. Emily shook silently, tears falling. What do we do? I asked. Leonard looked at me, then at Emily. That depends on what kind of justice you're looking for. If you've made it this far, comment 1. What comes next blends reality with creative storytelling. If you'd rather stop here, you can close this now. The manila folder was heavier than I expected. Leonard slid it across the table. Inside were court records, financial reports, and clipped to the front, a mugshot. The same face that had walked out of this office minutes earlier. A different name beneath it. Bradley Thompson. I stared at the image. Same jawline, same cold eyes. The placard read, Thompson, Bradley, LVMPD, August 14, 2017. Las Vegas Metro Police arrested him for securities fraud. He posed as an investment advisor, targeting retired seniors with fake high-yield bonds. Emily leaned forward, her hands shaking as she touched the file. How much? I asked. $2.3 million, 15 to 20 victims, mostly retirees. Most of them lost everything. Leonard's tone stayed clinical. He fled before trial. There's an active federal warrant. Emily's voice came out strained. We've been married 6 years. He changed his name 3 months before meeting you, Leonard said. Legal name change filed in Clark County, Nevada. The new social security number is fraudulent. He's been living under a stolen identity for 7 years. Emily kept reading, hands shaking. Investment advisor. Elderly victims. She looked up suddenly. The kids, Ethan and Lily. They're safe, I said immediately. They don't know anything. She stared at the mugshot. The man she married. A stranger. He was looking for someone to hide behind, I said slowly. Someone with money, legitimacy, a ready-made life. That's my assessment, Leonard agreed. And it gets worse. The Sal Giordano loan wasn't just about cash. He was trying to use your house as collateral for illegal activity. If that deal had gone through, Emily, you could have been charged as an accomplice. Money laundering conspiracy. I didn't know. We know, I said firmly. Which is why we act now, before he realizes we know. Leonard nodded. What do you want to do, Michael? I can call the FBI right now. I looked at Emily. She was crying silently, clutching the photo. Not yet. First, we protect Emily and the kids. Legal separation immediately, divorce papers, a restraining order, and safeguards so he can't implicate them. That will take a day or two. Then we move. I closed the folder. After that, Bradley Thompson answers for what he did, to those investors and to us. Leonard reached for his phone. I'll call him. Tell him we have unfinished business tomorrow morning. Will he come? He doesn't have a choice. He thinks he's negotiating. Leonard's smile was sharp. He doesn't know we're building a cage. Emily wiped her eyes. What if he runs? He won't, I said. He's hidden successfully for 7 years. He believes he's smarter than everyone. That's his weakness. We left as the sun dropped, shadows stretching along Wacker Drive. Emily held my arm like she might fall. Dad, what happens next? I looked at my daughter, brought to her knees by a professional con artist. Now we make sure you and the kids are safe and protected. Then we make Bradley Thompson pay. Not just for us, but for every victim. She nodded, still crying. I'm sorry. I brought him into our lives. No. I stopped walking. You fell in love. Or what you thought was love. That isn't a crime. What he did is. But I should have seen it. He's a professional liar. That's what he does. We walked to the garage in silence. The next morning, Bradley Thompson would walk back into Leonard's office thinking he was negotiating. He had no idea it was checkmate. He returned the next morning after Leonard called him back for unfinished business. He strutted in like he'd already won. Fine, I'll agree to the divorce, but I want the SUV, the dogs, and $50,000 to start over. I didn't answer. I slid the manila folder across the table. He frowned. What's this? Open it, Bradley. The room went still. His face froze. What did you just call me? Bradley Thompson, born March 15, 1987, Henderson, Nevada. Arrested for securities fraud in Las Vegas, 2017. Fled before trial. The color drained from his face as he opened the folder. The mugshot stared back. Where did you— Leonard's voice cut in. Identity fraud is a federal crime, Mr. Thompson. So is interstate flight to avoid prosecution. He turned to Emily, panic breaking through. Emily, I can explain. Explain what? Her voice was colder than I'd ever heard it. That you lied about everything? Your name? Your past? That I married a fugitive? If you turn me in, she gets dragged into this too. Wrong, I said. The house is mine. Her assets are protected. Your threats are worthless. Here's what happens now, I said evenly. You sign the divorce, no contest, no custody fight, supervised visitation only, 2 hours twice a month. You leave Chicago within 48 hours. You take nothing except your clothes. And if I don't? I picked up my phone. Then I call the FBI field office. You'll be in custody in Nevada by Friday. You won't do that. Try me. You picked the wrong family. Silence stretched tight. Then his shoulders sagged. He took the pen Leonard placed in front of him and signed both names on the divorce papers, the restraining order, the custody agreement. You're making a mistake, he muttered. No, Emily said. Marrying you was the mistake. This fixes it. He stood, looked at her once more, and walked out. The door closed softly. Leonard gathered the documents. I'll file these today. He'll be legally separated from you and the children by tomorrow. Emily nodded, still staring at the door. And the FBI? Leonard asked. I'll handle it. That evening, I sat in a Starbucks on Michigan Avenue with coffee. I didn't drink. A burner phone sat on the table. I'd spent an hour printing documents at the library. Bradley Thompson's mugshot, arrest record, the warrant number, his current address. A studio in Bucktown rented the day before. I opened the FBI's anonymous tip line and began typing. Subject, Bradley Thompson, fugitive from justice. Last known location, North Diamond Avenue, Apartment 3B, Chicago, Illinois. Wanted for securities fraud, Las Vegas, 2017. Currently living under the alias Jason Miller, active federal warrant. I attached the files and added a photo I'd taken that morning when he arrived at Leonard's office. My finger hovered over submit. I thought about the retirees in Las Vegas, people who'd worked their entire lives, saved carefully, and trusted the wrong man. I pressed submit. The screen confirmed. Your tip has been received. Case number EC 204-117839. I deleted the browsing history, powered off the phone, and walked 3 blocks to drop it in a trash can behind a CVS. Then I walked 3 more blocks and caught a taxi back to the peninsula. In my suite, I poured 2 fingers of scotch and stood at the window, watching the city lights. Somewhere in Bucktown, Bradley Thompson was probably packing, running again like he always did. But this time, he wouldn't get far. The FBI was excellent, and I'd given them everything they needed. I slept that night better than I had in months. Justice, I realized, sometimes only needs a push. 41 hours after I uploaded Bradley Thompson's mugshot, arrest records, and current address to the FBI's anonymous tip line, 3 black SUVs pulled up to his Bucktown studio at 6:47 a.m. He was in federal custody before 7, extradited to Nevada within the week, and sentenced to 12 years for securities fraud. I had handled it exactly as I told Leonard I would. 6 months later, on a Sunday morning in December, I drove to Lincoln Park for lunch, not as a rescuer, but as a guest. Snow was falling when I arrived. Christmas lights twinkled on the simple white eaves. Emily opened the door wearing an apron, her hands dusted with flour. Dad, come in. The house felt warmer, hers. Ethan came running. Pops, I got an A on my math test. Let me see. I examined the paper. Outstanding. You earned this yourself. Grace tugged my sleeve. Pops, look. I saved $5. She pointed to a jar labeled Disney Fund in crayon. Excellent savings, sweetheart. Emily was setting the table. French toast, bacon, fruit. She had cooked it herself. We ate together. Conversation flowed easily, full of laughter. I got promoted last week, Emily said. Assistant logistics manager. That's wonderful. You earned it. I did, didn't I? Real pride in her voice. The pay's better. I'm covering the mortgage every month, on time. Through the window, Duke and Maximus played in the snow. Healthy, happy, at home. Dad called yesterday, Grace said suddenly. The table went quiet. He's allowed 1 call a week from Nevada, Emily explained. He asked about the kids and said he was sorry. What did you tell him? I told him I hoped he'd learn to be better. Grace's voice was matter of fact. Miss Johnson says everyone deserves a chance to learn. Do you want to talk to him? I asked. Ethan and Grace exchanged glances. Sometimes, Ethan said carefully. He's still our dad, but he's not part of our family anymore. Not like you are, Pops. After lunch, Ethan walked me to my car. Pops, why did you help us even when things got bad? I knelt to meet his eyes. Because family isn't about money, Mason. It's about respect. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is refuse to accept less than what someone can become. So you believed Mom could do better? I knew she could. She just needed someone to stop doing everything for her and start believing in her. He hugged me tight. I drove home through the December snow. The Oak Park house didn't feel empty anymore. I'd be back the next Sunday and the Sunday after, not as a checkbook, but as a grandfather, a father. Bradley Thompson had tried to take my dignity at the airport gate 6 months ago. He'd torn my boarding pass, thinking he'd won. But he had freed me from a prison I'd built, one made of guilt and money instead of respect. I never made it to Texas that summer, but I found something better. My family, my real family, built on respect, not obligation. That was worth more than any trip could ever be. Looking back, I see the mistakes clearly. For years, I confused love with enabling. I thought being a good father meant writing checks, but all I did was build a cage. Don't be like me. Don't wait until a torn boarding pass forces you to see the truth. The lesson I learned is this. True love isn't giving people everything they want. It's teaching them to stand on their own. It's about boundaries, not bailouts. As Scripture says, train up a child in the way they should go. I forgot that. I trained Emily to depend on me, not on God or herself. This story isn't just mine. It's a warning. Grandpa stories like this are meant to be shared so others don't repeat our mistakes. God gave me a second chance, and I'm grateful. He showed me that dignity isn't about what you give, but what you refuse to accept. If you've stayed this long, you understand. This story is about more than money. It's about finding the courage to say enough when God calls you to act. It's about respect. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and let people face consequences. Grandpa stories carry wisdom because they're earned through pain and mistakes. Thank you for staying until the end. Comment too, so I know you're here. Quick note, this narrative includes fictionalized elements for teaching purposes. If it didn't resonate, explore other content. But if it moved you, please share your thoughts below and subscribe for more lessons learned the hard way. Your comment and share mean everything.